her. You look great.
Fantastic.
Yes.
All right. Where is home for you right now?
I feel like I've had to redefine my sense of home over time. I would say home would be Houston, Texas.
Okay. Is that where you were born?
No,
Where were you born?
I was born in Fort Hood, Texas, in an army base. And my dad was in the military. But that's kind of where I spent majority of my childhood, like going into high school, and then like leaving home for college. That's kind of where I left. So home for me right now is kind of just where my family is.
Yeah. So how long have you been in the Charlotte area?
I'm going on 4 years. Yeah.
Can you describe your experience during the last 2 years or more of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Ooh. Initially, it just kind of felt like an apocalypse. I'm not gonna lie. Like everything was just, I guess, just so unknown. And I remember, I think it was like a Wednesday or Thursday. We were at school, and they had announced that like, oh, Sunday we need you gone, like in the next coming days. And I remember it was just like a lot of panic. It was just very anxiety-inducing. And then, yeah, just a lot of fear. Went home with family. Felt a little more security once I like saw their face and I was with them. And then, little by little, like, I don't know, things just didn't really feel real at first. And then quarantine was another thing that was rough. Like I feel like for a lot of people's mental health, mine especially. And then I think the second year, once we came back to school and things were like online, it started to feel a little bit more normal. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I had some fun when we came back for school. But yeah, it was rough.
Yeah. So can you think back to like the early days of the pandemic and what did you do during the lockdown?
A lot of like random little projects around the house. I would garden with my mom. I would cook with my mom. A lot of self-reflection. It kind of forced me to like be still and slow down, which I had trouble with. I'm very ADHD. I like to like hop onto the next task like frequently, but having to slow down was scary, but like really needed. I would say it was kind of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. So how have your friendships or family relationships changed during the pandemic?
I think I just had to learn how to communicate because I obviously couldn't see them often. Communicating was never my strong suit, so like learning to communicate from afar and communicate like effectively and often was like, that's how I would maintain my relationships.
Yeah.
So
can you think of a time that maybe you like stepped in to help someone that was affected by COVID, like a friend that had a loss in the family, or one of your friends had COVID, something like that?
I had one of my close friends, his name was Elliot from home. He had gotten COVID, and at the time I was like, oh damn, like I was just like panicking because I was like, oh, like what if he dies, like what if so and so, like whatever happens to him. Luckily he was in good health. I just remember like I would like sneak out of my house and I would go and like bring him like little snacks from the gas station, or like I would like talk with him through the window. Things like that's kind of just like what comes to mind. Other than that, like my family like directly wasn't affected, thankfully. That's just like I guess my earliest memory that I can remember.
Can you describe your experience going out in public at the height of the pandemic? Like what was it like for you wearing masks, gloves? How did all that make you feel?
Very skeptical of everything. I don't know, I guess like the mask thing was uncomfortable for sure. It was just like harder to breathe, like physically. Emotionally, yeah, like I said, just like very anxious about everything, very skeptical about like who's been where, what have I touched, what air am I breathing, do I need to be here, do I not need to be here. But in Texas even more so, just because like it was a little too lax during the pandemic. Like people didn't really care as much, so I don't know, here and there.
Has the pandemic changed your normal routines, would you say?
I feel like in terms of like cleanliness, yeah, and like sanitation for sure. Socially, I think I just have like stronger relationships, but because of like, I don't know, you know, the kind of thing where it's like you don't know what you have until it's gone.
Yeah.
I guess like because of the pandemic, I don't know, I feel like I just have a little bit stronger roots in my inner circle.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more gratitude all around, I would say. That answers your question.
Yeah. What are some long-lasting like consequences of the pandemic, do you think? Like for individuals, the virus itself, like what's your opinion on it?
I think long-lasting consequences. I think a lot of systems in a lot of different areas had to change very fast. I mean, if we're talking healthcare, like I don't think anybody was prepared for like a pandemic like that. So I guess just like redistributing where our taxes go for healthcare. I mean, businesses had to shift online. I mean, my internship, pretty much everything functions like remotely now, which is interesting. I feel like there was a big shift in that. And then, and then obviously a lot of people died. So like, there's a lot of mourning and healing that still like is happening for a lot of people. Yeah,
for sure. So you mentioned like your internship. What was work like for you during the pandemic? Were you able to work?
So at the beginning, no. When we came back for school, I believe it was the pandemic hit in 2019, right? I think
March of 2020.
Or was it 20? It was 2020. So it was the latter half of that year. We came back for school. I got a job working at South Park Mall for Lululemon. And it was just like limited to how many people could come in the store. Obviously the mask mandate was in place, big on sanitation. But I did have a job then. I was just, I think when I had my internship, it was this past summer. So obviously it wasn't, COVID wasn't at its peak necessarily, so there wasn't any big changes, but like we could function remotely.
So what has the process been like transitioning over time with like restrictions coming and going, masks required, masks not required, you have to wear them inside, you have to wear them outside, like how has that been for you?
I didn't know like what to trust, like what sources to trust, because like a lot of people's, a lot of the information coming at me was like very conflicting. So again, just a lot of skepticism. I didn't really know what to believe, so yeah, I'd say that.
How has this experience as a whole shaped you as a person?
Gratitude, honestly. Like I said before, I think just like seeing how fast it was taken away from me, like the things that I loved, it just made me that much more grateful for them, I guess.
What do you think your future will look like now?
Like post-pandemic or just in general?
Just in general, post-pandemic, whatever, however you want to answer.
You know, I don't know. I don't know that I have a concrete answer for that. I guess my hope would be, just like giving myself the freedom to follow whatever it is that my heart desires, you know? Being fearless in that, being confident in that. And I guess like initially I didn't really know what I wanted. And like kind of tying it back to COVID, I think because I had that time to slow down, I could really figure out like who it is that I want in my life, what it is that I want to do, what direction I want to go, you know. So I guess it's up in the air, but.
Do you have any like additional stories or experiences that you can think of that you want to share about COVID-19? Like anything that's really stuck out to you?
I mean, it had its challenges, but like I guess what comes to mind is just like the wholesome little moments that we had. We got together whenever we came back to Charlotte. You were even a part of it. Like the girls' team came over a lot, and like any excuse that we had to get together, we did it just because like there wasn't anything going on at the time. So, like I said, I just feel like our bonds got stronger then. And we had fun doing things that were like the simple things, I guess.
Well, that's all the questions I
Love
have.
it.
Thank you so much.
That was fun.